The sun rose over the ruins of Chicago, its light barely breaking through the massive shadow of the Krell warship that hung overhead. It had been there for almost 30 years now, a constant reminder to the people below of who was in charge, Eric. Mallory woke up before his alarm. He always did these days. Sleep wasn't easy with the weight of the world pressing down. He looked at his wife Kate still sleeping beside him, her face peaceful for just a few more minutes before another day under alien rule began. He moved quietly to check on Lily. Their 7-year-old daughter slept with her favorite stuffed rabbit, clutched tight against her chest. Eric felt the familiar mixture of love and fear whenever he looked at her. Lily had been born into this world of occupation, never knowing the freedom her parents once took for granted. "She's still asleep?" Kate asked softly from the doorway. "Yeah, let her rest a bit longer." Kate nodded and went to the kitchen of their small apartment. It was one of the better places to live in what was left of the city. Kate's job as a medical worker at the Krell facility gave them better housing, extra food rations, and something even more valuable: information. As Kate made breakfast from their ration supplies, Eric checked his hidden pocket where a small data chip was stored. Today he would deliver it to the Resistance. It contained patrol schedules Kate had managed to copy from the Krell Medical Center computer systems. "Her testing appointment is tomorrow," Kate said, her voice tight with worry. "I can't delay it any longer without raising suspicion." Eric's jaw clenched. The Krell had ordered genetic testing of all human children between ages 5 and 10. They claimed it was for health monitoring, but the Resistance had learned the truth. Children with certain genetic markers were being taken off-world, never to be seen again. "We'll figure something out," Eric promised, though he had no idea what. The Resistance was skilled but small. The Krell were everywhere, with technology far beyond anything humans could fight. After breakfast, Lily woke up and joined them. Despite the world she lived in, she smiled easily and laughed often. It gave her parents hope and broke their hearts at the same time. "Do I have to go to school today?" Lily asked, pushing her cereal around in its bowl. School was the Krell re-education center where human children were taught to obey, to accept their place, to fear their rulers. They learned altered history about how the Krell had saved humanity from destroying itself. They were shown videos of what happened to people who broke the rules, public executions designed to burn fear deep into young minds. "Yes, sweetheart," Kate said gently. "But remember what we practiced?" Lily nodded seriously. "I listen and repeat what they say, but inside my head I remember the true stories you tell me." Eric smiled sadly. Such a heavy burden for such small shoulders. "That's my brave girl." After Lily was dressed in her gray school uniform, Kate walked her to the shuttle stop where Krell transports picked up children for school. Eric watched from the window until they were out of sight, then prepared for his own dangerous day. He worked officially as a repair technician, fixing whatever the Krell ordered fixed. It gave him access to different parts of the city, making him valuable as a Resistance courier. Today he would deliver the data chip to a woman named Alicia Barnes, who ran a small shop near the western checkpoint. Eric tucked the chip into a hidden pocket in his work boot, grabbed his tool bag, and left the apartment. Outside, the streets were already busy with humans going to their assigned jobs. Overhead, smaller Krell patrol ships zipped between buildings, their searchlights occasionally sweeping the crowds below. At the corner, a public view screen showed Commander Varex, the Krell overseer of the North American sector. His face was more reptilian than human, with scaled skin in shades of green and black. His 4 eyes blinked independently as he spoke about continued cooperation for mutual benefit. Behind him stood the motionless forms of 3 humans about to be punished for some Resistance activity. Eric looked away as the crowd was forced to watch. The Krell made examples often. That was how they ruled. Through fear. Through public displays of what happened to those who defied them. He made his way through 3 checkpoints, showing his work orders at each one. The Krell soldiers scanned him with their handheld devices but found nothing unusual. The data chip was hidden in a special compartment that blocked their scans. Technology the Resistance had developed through years of trial and costly error. Near the Western Market, Eric spotted Alicia's shop. She sold fabric and clothing repair, supplies, one of the few small businesses the Krell allowed. He entered and pretended to browse while Alicia helped another customer. When they were alone, he moved to the counter. "I need thread that will match this," he said, pulling out a scrap of fabric. The code phrase. Alicia nodded. "Let me check in the back." In the storage room, Eric quickly passed her the chip. "Kate says they're changing the patrol routes again next week. This has the new schedule." "Thank you," Alicia said, taking the tiny chip. "How's Lily?" Eric's face darkened. "Testing appointment tomorrow." Alicia touched his arm. "There's a rumor going around. Someone in the Resistance might have found a way to fool their genetic scanners." Hope flickered in Eric's chest. "Who? Where?" "Dr. Graham. He works at the Central Processing Facility." Alicia quickly wrote something on a scrap of paper. "Here's how to contact him." Eric memorized the information, then ate the paper. Taking written information was too dangerous. As he left the shop, a commotion erupted down the street. A Krell patrol had cornered a young man who'd apparently broken curfew the night before. The alien soldiers stood nearly 7 feet tall, their armor making them look even larger. The crowd watched in silent horror as the young man was beaten, then dragged away. Eric forced himself to keep walking, his hands clenched into fists inside his pockets. Each day brought new horrors, new reasons to fight back. But they had to be smart. Strategic. Back at the apartment that evening, Eric told Kate about Dr. Graham. A flicker of hope crossed her tired face. "I know him," she said. "He's not one of us, but he hates what they're doing to the children." They spoke in whispers, planning how to approach the doctor before Lily's appointment. It was risky, but they had no choice. If Lily had the genetic markers the Krell were looking for, she would be taken from them. After dinner, as Kate helped Lily with her homework, Eric stared out the window at the massive warship hanging over the city. 30 years of occupation had taught humanity one thing above all others: patience. They would resist, they would plan, they would wait for the right moment. What Eric couldn't know was that the moment was coming sooner than anyone expected, and that his small family would be at the very center of humanity's greatest hour. The morning of Lily's testing arrived cold and gray. Eric had been awake most of the night, going over the plan again and again in his mind. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was all they had. Kate dressed Lily in her best clothes, a simple, blue dress that Eric had traded 3 days' rations to get. They wanted her to look healthy and well cared for. The Krell sometimes took children who seemed neglected for special education programs. No one ever saw those children again either. "Remember what we talked about," Kate said, kneeling in front of Lily. "Answer the question simply. Don't try to be clever or funny." Lily nodded, her small face serious. "And if I get scared, I count to 10 in my head." Eric hugged his daughter tightly. "That's right, and Mom will be with you the whole time." He wouldn't be in the testing center with them. Instead, he would be nearby with Sam Porter and other Resistance members, ready to create a distraction if needed. They had weapons, a few stolen Krell, stun guns, and some homemade explosives, but using them was a last resort. Violence usually led to severe punishment for entire neighborhoods. After a quick breakfast, they left their apartment. Kate and Lily headed for the Central Processing Facility, while Eric went a different way, meeting Sam 2 blocks from the testing center. "Everything ready?" Eric asked. Sam nodded. He was a former police officer before the invasion, now one of the Resistance's most trusted operators. "Team is in position. We have exit routes mapped if we need them." They moved to their assigned spot, a broken-down delivery truck with a view of the facility's main entrance. Now all they could do was wait. Inside the processing center, Kate and Lily sat in a crowded waiting room with other nervous parents and children. The walls were stark white, the lighting harsh. Krell soldiers stood at each doorway, their weapons visible. When Lily's name was called, Kate squeezed her hand and they followed a human worker down a long hallway. The room they entered contained medical equipment and scanning devices. A human, Doctor stood beside a Krell officer. "Dr. Graham?" Kate asked, recognizing the man from her work at the medical center. The doctor looked surprised, then quickly composed himself. "Yes, this must be Lily. Please have her sit on the examination table." The Krell officer, Sub-Commander Nex according to the insignia on his armor, watched with all four eyes, unblinking. Dr. Graham was gentle as he explained the process to Lily. "This won't hurt. I'm going to take a small sample of your blood, and then you'll lie down under that scanner." Lily was brave as the doctor took her blood sample and placed it into a machine. Kate stood close, trying to appear calm despite her racing heart. Outside, Eric and Sam watched more families enter the facility. The minutes dragged like hours. "Something's wrong," Sam suddenly said, pointing to his communication device. "Team, 2 reports heavy Krell movement north of here. They usually don't patrol this area during testing days." Eric felt a chill. Had they been discovered? Was this a trap? Inside the testing room, Dr. Graham stared at his screen with growing concern. He ran the test again, his hands slightly shaking. "Is there a problem, Doctor?" the Krell officer asked, moving closer. No problem," Dr. Graham said too quickly. "Just confirming the results." Kate saw the fear in the doctor's eyes. He made a subtle gesture toward the screen, and she managed to glimpse the display. Red markers flashed across Lily's genetic profile. Many more than should be there, for any normal result. "What is it?" Sub-Commander Nex demanded, pushing the doctor aside to see the screen. Dr. Graham tried to switch the display, but he was too late. The Krell officer saw the results and immediately pressed an alarm on his wrist device. "Step away from the child," he ordered Kate. "What's happening?" Kate asked, moving closer to Lily instead. "What's wrong with my daughter?" The door burst open, and 4 Krell soldiers entered. Outside in the waiting room, other parents heard the alarm and began to panic. "The child has restricted genetic markers," Sub-Commander Nex announced. "She will come with us for further testing." "No!" Kate stood between the soldiers and Lily. "She's just a little girl. Whatever you think you found, you're wrong." One soldier grabbed Kate's arm to pull her aside. She fought back, years of fear and anger exploding into desperate strength. Outside, Eric's communication device buzzed with an urgent message from an informant inside the facility. "Emergency in testing room 3, Lily Mallory." "That's our signal," Eric told Sam, his heart pounding. "Something's gone wrong." They triggered their distraction, a small explosion in a garbage container on the opposite side of the street. As Krell soldiers ran toward the blast, Eric and his team moved toward the facility. Inside the testing room, the situation was spiraling out of control. Kate had managed to grab Lily and was trying to reach the door, but soldiers blocked their path. Sub-Commander Nex raised his weapon. "This is your final warning. The child comes with us, or there will be consequences." "Please," Dr. Graham intervened. "The results could be a mistake. Let me run another test." "Stand aside, human," the Krell officer ordered. "This child's genetic structure shows immunity to our control methods. The High Command's orders are clear." Kate held Lily tighter as the little girl began to cry. In the hallway, sounds of fighting grew louder as other parents realized something was happening to one of the children. Sub-Commander Nex raised his weapon. "This defiance ends now." Dr. Graham lunged to stop him but was too slow. The Krell fired, not a stun blast, but a full power shot meant to kill. Kate tried to shield Lily, but the shot hit her daughter directly. The little girl's body went limp in her mother's arms. The room fell silent for one terrible moment. Then Kate's scream tore through the air, a sound of pure agony that seemed to cut through the walls themselves. Eric, who had just fought his way into the facility, heard that scream and knew instantly what it meant. He broke through the soldiers, with strength he didn't know he had, Sam and others providing covering fire with their stolen weapons. When he reached the testing room, he found Kate on the floor, holding Lily's motionless body. Blood pooled around them. Dr. Graham was trying to help, but it was clear nothing could be done. Sub-Commander Nex stood with his weapon still drawn, surrounded by his soldiers. The specimen was dangerous. This action was authorized by command. Eric looked at his daughter's face. She appeared peaceful, as if sleeping. Then he looked at Kate and saw something in her eyes that mirrored what he felt in his own heart. Rage beyond anything they had ever known. News of what happened in Testing Room 3 spread through the facility like wildfire. Parents attacked. Krell soldiers with bare hands. Workers turned on their supervisors. Even some human collaborators joined the sudden uprising. For the first time in 30 years of occupation, the Krell faced something their weapons couldn't stop. A parent's wrath. 3 days after Lily's death, the city of Chicago was burning. The uprising that had begun in the testing center had spread like wildfire across the city, then to neighboring towns, and now across the entire continent. What made this rebellion different from all previous attempts was its organization. From a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of an old military base, Eric and Kate Mallory watched screens showing the progress of what people were now calling Operation Lily's Wake. Kate hadn't spoken much since they'd escaped the testing center. Her grief had hardened into something cold and focused, a weapon as deadly as any the Resistance possessed. "Detroit has fallen to our forces," Sam Porter reported, pointing to one of the screens. "The Krell are pulling back to their main base. Boston and Philadelphia are reporting similar withdrawals." Eric nodded. "They're confused. They don't understand what's happening." What was happening was something the Krell had never planned for. The activation of a resistance network that had been building in secret for 15 years. After Lily's death, encrypted messages had flashed between cells across the globe. "Remember Lily." It was the signal that many had been waiting for, though no one had expected it would be triggered by the death of a single child. "Dr. Graham is here," a young woman announced, leading the doctor into the bunker's main room. Howard Graham looked exhausted. He had barely escaped the testing center alive, bringing with him crucial data stolen from the Krell computers. Now he stood before the parents of the child he had failed to save. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I tried to hide her results, but I wasn't fast enough." Kate looked at him with eyes that had cried all their tears. "Tell us what you found. What did they see in her blood that made them kill her?" The doctor opened a laptop and showed them the genetic scan. "Your daughter had markers that the Krell are programmed to identify and eliminate. They've been searching for these markers in all human children." "But what do they mean?" Eric asked. "Immunity," Graham explained. "Lily's genetic structure showed natural resistance to the neural control methods the Krell use. She couldn't be controlled by their technology." Sam leaned forward. "Are you saying the Krell can be controlled by someone else?" "Yes," Graham nodded. "I've suspected for years that the Krell aren't natural conquerors. They're being manipulated themselves through neural implants. Their entire empire is built on layers of control and fear. Lily's genes contained a natural shield against that control." "How many other children have this immunity?" Kate asked. "Based on my research, about 3% of human children born after the invasion show some version of these markers. The Krell have been quietly removing them for years. The information changed everything. It wasn't just about fighting back anymore. It was about understanding their enemy." Just then, a communication came through on a secure channel. The face that appeared on the main screen belonged to a woman many thought was long dead. Rear Admiral Susan Blackwood of the old United States Navy. "Mallory Porter, we've secured the eastern seaboard," she reported without preamble. "My cover is blown, but it was worth it. 3 Krell warships in orbit have been disabled from within." Eric stared in shock. "Admiral Blackwood, you've been alive all this time?" The woman's face showed the strain of years of deep cover work. "Alive and building a network. For 15 years I've placed our people in key positions, stockpiled weapons, and gathered intelligence. We were waiting for the right moment." "And my daughter's murder was that moment?" Kate asked, her voice bitter. Blackwood's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry for your loss, truly. But yes, it was the spark we needed. The Krell made a critical mistake. They've killed humans before, thousands of them, but killing a child in front of her mother, in front of other parents, it broke something in us as a species. Fear gave way to rage." Reports continued to pour in from around the world. In Australia, resistance fighters had taken control of the Krell's main communication relay. In Europe, 3 major cities had been reclaimed. In Asia, Krell transport ships were being shot down as they tried to evacuate their personnel. "We've received a message from someone claiming to be General Vincent Carter," Sam announced, reading from a tablet. "Carter's alive too?" Eric asked in disbelief. The general had been a hero of the initial resistance 30 years ago, before disappearing in the devastating counterattack that had broken human military power. "He says he has something called Project Prometheus ready to deploy. It's some kind of EMP weapon specifically designed to target Krell neural implants." Dr. Graham looked up sharply. "If that's true, it could free the Krell from whoever is controlling them. Some might even join our side." Kate stood up, speaking with quiet authority that silenced the room. "Send word to all cells. We don't just fight to kill anymore. We fight to free ourselves and to offer the same choice to any Krell who wants it." The next day, Eric led a team to meet with General Carter's forces in the mountains. They traveled in captured Krell vehicles, using codes and clearances taken from the enemies they had defeated. The roads were littered with the evidence of battles: burned vehicles, destroyed buildings, and bodies of both humans and Krell. At the rendezvous point, they found not just General Carter, but hundreds of soldiers with advanced weapons and equipment that had been hidden away for years. "We've been preparing," the general told Eric as they studied maps in a makeshift command center. "Every time they thought they crushed us, we just went deeper underground. Now we have a chance to end this." The plan was simple but bold. While Admiral Blackwood's forces engaged the Krell in orbit, Carter's ground troops would launch a coordinated attack on the main Krell command center in what was once Denver. At the same time, they would activate Project Prometheus, hoping to disable the neural control of as many Krell as possible. Kate insisted on joining the attack force. She had been working with Dr. Graham to refine the Prometheus technology, focusing it to ensure maximum effect. "They need to see my face," she told Eric the night before the assault. "The one who took our daughter. I want him to know what he awakened in us." Eric held her close, feeling both the familiar warmth of her body and the new hardness that had formed around her heart. "We'll find him together." As dawn broke over the mountains, humanity's forces moved into position. For the first time in 30 years, they weren't fighting just to survive or to resist. They were fighting to win. In orbit, Admiral Blackwood sent a message to the remaining Krell ships. "Your neural controls can be broken. Join us, or face defeat." On his command ship, Commander Varix received reports of widespread rebellions and unexpected betrayals. For the first time in his long career as an overseer, he felt something new: doubt, and its companion, fear. The battle for Denver began at dawn. Human forces advanced from all sides, using a mix of captured Krell technology and weapons that General Carter's people had developed in secret. The Krell defenders responded with heavy fire, their massive cannons turning buildings to dust. Eric led a strike team through the underground tunnel system that had once been Denver's subway. Their goal was to reach the central command building where Commander Varix directed his forces. With Eric were Sam Porter, Dr. Graham, and a dozen of their best fighters. Kate had insisted on joining them, carrying a special version of the Prometheus device. "First junction clear," Sam reported as they moved through the dim tunnels. "Krell sensors haven't picked us up yet." Above ground, the battle raged across the city. General Carter's forces pushed closer to the center, paying a heavy price for each block gained. In orbit, Admiral Blackwood's ships engaged the Krell fleet, preventing them from providing air support to their ground troops. "We're getting reports from around the world," Dr. Graham said, checking a small communication device. "The Prometheus network is activating. Thousands of Krell soldiers are losing neural control." The news gave them hope. Without their neural implants forcing obedience, many Krell were stopping their attacks. Some were surrendering. Others were fighting alongside humans against their former masters. As they approached the central command building, Eric's team encountered heavy resistance. Krell elite guards blocked their path, their weapons cutting down 2 resistance fighters in seconds. "Take cover," Eric shouted as energy blasts tore through the air around them. Sam and his fighters returned fire while Kate and Dr. Graham worked together on the portable Prometheus device. "It's ready," Kate said, "but we need to get closer. This version only works at short range." Eric looked at his wife, seeing the determination in her eyes. "Cover us," he called to Sam. "We're going to make a run for it." Kate held the device while Eric provided protection. Together, they moved forward through the gunfire, staying low and using debris as cover. A blast hit Eric's shoulder, burning through his armor, but he kept moving. They reached the door to the next section and activated the device. A pulse of blue energy spread outward. The Krell guards stopped firing, some dropping their weapons as their neural implants failed. "It's working," Dr. Graham said as he joined them. "But the effect is temporary with this portable unit. We need to reach the main control room." They moved deeper into the building, encountering less resistance as news of the human advance spread. Some Krell they encountered seemed confused, no longer receiving orders through their implants. Others appeared relieved. In the Central Command, Center Commander Varix received reports of the human approach. His green-scaled skin had grown pale with stress, his four eyes blinking rapidly as screens showed the collapse of his forces. "Send all remaining troops to protect this facility," he ordered. "Sir," one of his officers responded, "many units are not responding to commands." Varix knew why. His own neural implant had been buzzing with painful static for hours, as whoever controlled the Krell Empire tried desperately to maintain their grip. Unlike most Krell, Varix had discovered a way to partially block the control signals years ago. It had given him just enough free thought to recognize what was happening. The humans were not just fighting back. They were breaking the control system itself. Eric's team fought their way to the upper levels of the command center. Kate had grown quiet, her focus entirely on the device she carried and the thought of confronting her daughter's killer. "The command room should be through those doors," Sam said, pointing ahead. They breached the doors and entered the large circular room filled with screens and control stations. Krell officers turned to face them, weapons drawn. At the center stood Commander Varix. "Hold your fire," Varix ordered his troops, raising a hand. Then he did something unexpected. He reached up to his own neck and removed a small device attached to his spine. His neural implant. "You are the parents of the child," he said, looking at Eric and Kate. "The one who was killed." Kate stepped forward, the Prometheus device ready. "Her name was Lily." "Lily," Varix repeated. "I remember. I wish to show you something." He gestured to a large screen behind him. "This is a transmission I received from our homeworld after your uprising began." The screen showed another alien species, not Krell, but something different. They had pale, almost translucent skin and large eyes. They spoke in an angry tone, demanding that Varix crush the human rebellion at any cost. "They are called the Architects," Varix explained. "For centuries they have used my people as their enforcers, their warriors. We conquer worlds for them, control populations, harvest resources, all while believing we act of our own will." Dr. Graham moved closer to the screen. "The neural implants, they're how the Architects control you." "Yes," Varix nodded. "Few Krell ever realize it. I began to suspect the truth years ago, but could not act without being detected and replaced." Eric kept his weapon ready, not fully trusting this sudden change. "Why are you telling us this now?" "Because your daughter changed everything," Varix said. "The Architects ordered all children with her genetic markers eliminated because they fear what it means. Humans who cannot be controlled. Humans who might free others." Kate's hands tightened around the Prometheus device. "You killed my child." "Because of orders?" "I followed orders, as I have for decades," Varix admitted. "But when I saw what her death awakened in your species, not just anger, but unity, I began to hope." He moved to a control console and pressed several buttons. "I am surrendering this command center to your forces. But more importantly, I am giving you this." A data drive emerged from the console. Complete schematics of the neural control system, locations of all Architect command bases, and the frequencies they use to control not just the Krell, but a dozen other conquered species across this sector of space. Sam took the drive cautiously. Why would you help us? Because you've shown us something we had forgotten, Varix replied. The architects rule through fear, but there are things stronger than fear. The love of a parent for their child, the unity of a species facing extinction. These things, the architects cannot understand. Outside, the sounds of battle were fading. As more Krell lost their neural connections, General Carter's forces had secured most of the city. In orbit, Admiral Blackwood reported that the remaining Krell ships had ceased fire. Kate placed the Prometheus device on the main console. This will disable all remaining neural implants in this facility, she said, looking directly at Varix. Your people will be free to choose. And what will your people choose? Varix asked. Revenge? Eric put his hand on Kate's shoulder. The grief was still there, would always be there. But now there was something else too. Purpose. We choose to remember our daughter, Kate said as she activated the device. Not just with anger, but with hope. She died because she could not be controlled. We'll make sure her death was not in vain. A wave of blue energy spread throughout the building and beyond. On screens around them, they watched as Krell soldiers across the city stopped fighting, many removing their helmets, looking around as if seeing the world clearly for the first time. The battle for Denver was over, but the war against the architects had just begun. 1 year after Lily Mallory's death, Earth was a different world. The Krell occupation had ended. The massive warships that once shadowed cities now served a new purpose, as part of Earth's growing defense fleet. From the rebuilt command center, in Denver, now called Unity Base, Eric watched ships taking off and landing. Some carried human and Krell teams heading to liberate other worlds. Others brought supplies and refugees from planets already freed from architect control. Hard to believe it's been a year, Sam Porter said, joining Eric at the window. Some days it feels like yesterday, Eric replied quietly. Other days it feels like a lifetime ago. Kate's voice came through on the communication system. Eric, we're ready for the demonstration. He and Sam made their way to the research wing where Kate and Dr. Graham had been working. They found them in a large lab with dozens of scientists, both human and Krell, working on various projects. At the center stood a new version of the Prometheus device. Kate looked different now. The grief was still there in her eyes, but alongside it was fierce determination. She had become the lead scientist on the Prometheus project, focused on developing technology to free all beings from architect control. We've made a breakthrough, she announced as Eric entered. The new version doesn't just disable neural implants. It can protect against any future attempt at neural control. Dr. Graham nodded excitedly. We reverse-engineered the protection from Lily's genetic markers. It's like a shield for the mind. A Krell scientist named Tor, who had joined their team after being freed by the first Prometheus wave, added, we can now protect entire populations with a single broadcast. No one will ever be enslaved by the architects again. The news spread quickly through Unity Base and beyond. Admiral Blackwood called in from orbit where she commanded Earth's new space fleet. General Carter joined from the training facility where human and Krell soldiers learned to fight together. This changes everything, Blackwood said. We can move forward with Operation Lighthouse. Operation Lighthouse was humanity's bold plan to free other worlds and build an alliance against the architects. The first target was a planet called Vega 3, where another species had been under Krell control for nearly a century. Later that day, a ceremony was held in the central plaza of what had once been Denver. A memorial had been built there, a simple statue of a small girl holding a teddy bear. At its base were the words, Lily Mallory, her freedom lights our way. People gathered from across the globe to mark the anniversary. Eric and Kate stood at the front, joining hands as they faced the crowd. Behind them were Admiral Blackwood, General Carter, Commander Varix, and representatives from various resistance groups that had fought together. Eric stepped forward to speak. He was no longer just a resistance courier, but one of the leaders of the new unified Earth government. 1 year ago today, we lost our daughter, he began, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. One child, among many taken by the occupation, But her death showed us something important, that humans can endure almost anything. We can survive hardship, cruelty, occupation, but when our children are threatened, we find strength we never knew we had. Kate joined him at the microphone. The architects believed they could rule through fear. They were wrong. Fear can control, for a time, but love, the love of a parent for a child, the love of people for their world, that is stronger. Commander Varric stepped forward next. Many humans still viewed the Krell with suspicion, but that was changing as more Krell joined the fight against their former masters. My people were enslaved for generations, Varric said. We were used to enslave others. For this we carry great shame. But we have learned from humanity that redemption is possible. Together we will free all those still under architect control. After the ceremony, Eric and Kate returned to their small apartment near the base. Unlike many leaders of the new government, they had refused larger quarters, preferring to live simply. Lily's room remained as it had been, a reminder of what they fought for. On her bed sat the stuffed rabbit she had loved so much. Kate picked it up gently. Tomorrow the first Liberation Fleet leaves for Vega 3, she said. I've been asked to go with them to help set up the Prometheus broadcast. Eric nodded. Admiral Blackwood asked me to join the command team. They hadn't planned to be separated, but both missions were crucial. The architects had withdrawn after losing control of Earth and the Krell, but intelligence suggested they were regrouping, preparing to strike back with other enslaved species. We'll take her with us, Kate said, looking at the stuffed rabbit. A piece of her on both missions. Eric carefully cut the rabbit in half and Kate sewed each piece closed again. It was a fitting symbol. Their daughter's memory would now travel in two directions, spreading the hope of freedom. The next morning they said goodbye at the launch pad. Kate would travel with Dr. Graham and a science team on a faster ship, arriving at Vega 3 ahead of the main fleet that Eric would accompany. Be careful, Eric said, holding Kate close. These missions are still dangerous. The architects won't give up their control easily. You too, she replied. Remember what we promised. We survive, no matter what. For her. As Kate's ship rose into the clear blue sky, Eric watched until it was just a distant spark. Then he turned to board his own vessel. The command deck of the flagship Freedom was staffed by both humans and Krell working together. The ship had once been a Krell warship called Dominance. Its renaming reflected the change in mission, no longer to conquer, but to liberate. Admiral Blackwood greeted Eric as he arrived. Ready, Commander Mallory? Ready, Admiral. On the main screen, dozens of ships were forming up for the journey to Vega 3. It was the largest fleet humans had ever assembled, carrying not weapons of mass destruction but the Prometheus technology, the gift of freedom. As the fleet prepared to depart, a message was broadcast from Earth to every ship. It was a simple image, the memorial statue of Lily, and a dark few words that had become the motto of their mission. They ruled through fear. We liberate through hope. Eric touched the half of Lily's rabbit tucked inside his jacket. A year ago, he had been a broken man holding his dead child. Now he was, helping to lead humanity's first steps into a larger universe. The grief would never fully heal, but it had transformed into something powerful, a determination that no other parent would ever have to suffer as he and Kate had. As the ships accelerated away from Earth, Eric looked back at the blue planet, growing smaller behind them. Somewhere on the night side of that world, lights were glowing in cities free of shadows for the first time in decades. Lily would never see that world, but countless other children would, because of her.